Okay. Can everyone see the screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So we have seen that I have created a table which has 3 columns: first name, last name, and age. It has 3 more columns which has only data related to that particular column. Okay. Jill Smith 50, Eve Jackson 94, John Dio and 80. Okay. Now what are we trying to do? We are trying to apply a border to that particular table. And to apply the border, we are going to use CSS. And whenever we use CSS, we use this style tag. Okay. So we open the style tag, we close the style tag. In between that, what are we going to do is, we are going to apply this border. So this border is applied to the table, to the header, and besides the data. So how do you apply? You write border colon, one
link hai na?
Sorry?
Nothing, man.
So to apply the border, we write border colon 1 pixel. What is that 1 pixel? It is nothing but how much width or how much pixels it should cover. Okay. Then it should be solid black. That means the color of that particular border should be solid black. If I want to make it, let us first see black and then we will see how to change the color. Okay. So let me save this and
Ma'am, can you please explain style again?
yeah, let me see the output. Let us all see the output. So did you see the output? A border is applied to the table as well as to the columns and above and below to the data also. Why did it apply? Because we have used this table, we have used this th, and we have used this td. Okay, so border is applied to the table, to the column, and to the data. What is the size of that border? It is 1 pixel and the color is solid black. Now if I want to replace it, I will replace it with, say, yellow. Okay. So when I save this, my border color will get changed to yellow. Okay. If I want to change it to some more colors, you can keep on trying whichever color you want. It will get changed to that particular color. Is this understood? How are you supposed to apply the border to the table?
Yes, ma'am.
Now you may have a
Yes,
question. Yes, you may have a question that many a times instead of using colors or instead of mentioning the name of a color over here, we use hex code. Okay, what is that hex code? The colors are recognized in 2 ways. One is with the name of the color and other is with the hex code. Okay, every color will have a code. For example, black color has a code 0000, something like that. Red color will have 0001. So instead of using the name of the colors, you can also use this hex code. Okay, but what will be the difficulty in that case? You have to remember the code for each and every color. So instead of remembering these codes for each and every color, we simply write the name of the color. But both the things can be used. Either you use the hex code or you use the name of the color. Okay, both the ways are allowed inside the table. Is this understood?
Yes,
yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Ma'am, please explain style again. That
Okay,
part.
what is happening in style? With the help of this style tag, I am applying a border to the table, which was not there previously. Okay, previously what are we doing? We are just creating a table. Now if I want to add a border to the table, I am going to make use of a style tag, and inside the style tag, I will use this element called as border to apply the border to the table. Now, what are the parts or what are the contents which you have to mention inside this border? You have to mention the size of the border in pixels, which right now I have given as 1 pixel. And second is you have to specify the name of the color. In between both of them, you do not have to use any separation like comma or semicolon or nothing like that. Simply a space followed by the name of the
Ma'am,
color. Yes.
ma'am, why did you use solid?
Solid means it is
Yes, ma'am.
making.
What does solid means
Solid is it is
in this?
making those lines complete. अभी you have many types of line, dash है, फिर वो जैसे अपन ने इसमें word में देखा था wave वाली lines होती है. So solid is nothing but a straight line.
Ma'am, then what if we don't mention solid?
Let us see if we don't mention. It is not going to show any line. That
Okay,
means
ma'am. And ma'am,
border
what?
you have applied, that border will not be seen.
And ma'am, what if we don't mention the size? Then it will take default 1 pixel or?
Let us see that also. That means you want to mention solid, but you don't want to mention this pixel.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. By default, the largest one or the smallest one or whichever it wants, it will by default take that. Okay? Yes or no?
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Okay. So this is how we apply a border to a table. Clear? Shall we move to the next part?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes,
ma'am.
Next is HTML table collapsed border. Right now we had seen only how to add a border. Next property that we will be seeing is the collapsed border. To let the borders collapse into one border, add the CSS border collapse property. अभी ये कुछ भी नहीं समझेगा. Let us first understand the example and then understand what is actually a collapsed border. Okay, what it is trying to tell, to let the border collapse into one border. Okay, बहुत सारे borders होंगे, अगर उसको एक ही border में करना है, we make use of collapse into one border. Let us see how it is going to work. Okay. Again, I have used HTML5, open the HTML tag, closed the, wait a minute. Close the HTML tag, okay? Open the body tag, close the body tag. Now, I do not want this head. Okay. In the body, I have created a table. What is that table? A table has again same 3 columns and only 2 row with the data. Okay, correct? Is this self-explanatory now or should I explain again?
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
Okay. So I have 3 columns and I have 2 rows of data. Correct? Now what I'm trying to do is I am going to add a collapse border. What is that collapsing? So to add a collapse border, I first of all should have a border, because if I do not have a border, I cannot collapse the border. So how do you add a border? You add a border by using this style tag. So I've opened the style tag, I have closed the style tag. I have added a border of black color to the table, to the column as well as to the data. So if now to collapse it, what I'm doing is I'm using a property called as border collapse collapse. Okay. Now when I save this, let us see what is the output that we are getting. Previously this was the output. Now let us see what is the output. So पहले output क्या था? I was getting those double lines everywhere around each and every column, each and every row. But if you don't want such double lines, if you want those 2 lines to get merged into one line, I make use of this collapse. So now when I say that to let the borders collapse into one, so what was there? Previously I was having 2 lines. Now those 2 lines are being collapsed into one line. Are you understanding? Yes or no?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
When I delete this and when I give only border, what was happening? I was getting border of such 2 lines. Okay, border के अंदर border था. But I don't want that border inside that border inside that border. I just want a single border in the table. So what I will do, I will use this collapse. So when I use this collapse, what is going to happen? So multiple borders here that will get converted only into a single line or into a single border. Is that understood now?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
to add any property of a table, we make use of style and we just change the properties or the elements of that style to change the appearance of the table. So we have seen 2 things. First thing we have seen is how to add a border, and second thing is we have seen through the style how to collapse those borders. Correct? Now next is we will see how to add a cell padding. Now cell padding specifies the space between the cell contents and its border. Many a times we want a table where there is a space between the content and the border of the table. So अगर वो दोनों के बीच में हमको space चाहिए, so how do we put that space? We put that space by using this concept called as cell padding. So if you do not want padding, the table cells will be displayed without padding. If you want, you add the padding. Okay. So to set a padding, we again use a CSS padding property. So let us see how do we add a cell padding and how does that cell padding look like. Okay. So I have created a HTML5 document, open the HTML over here, close the HTML over here. I have inside the body, I have created a table. What does that table has? Again, a table has same 3 columns and it has 2 row of data. Close the table, close the body, close the HTML. So my cell table is prepared over here. Now what I'm going to do in that table is I'm going to add a space between the data, that is a cell data, and between the border. How do you do that? You do that by using this padding property. Where this padding property has to be added, it has to be added inside the style tag. So see to it that it has added before the style tag is closed. So I have opened the style tag over here, closed the style tag over here. First I have applied the border to the table, to the column and to the data. I have collapsed those multiple borders inside one particular border and closed it. Now I'm going to add a second property. So to add a second property, you have to separately mention these lines. So first property was opened over here and it is closed over here. That is a property of border. Second, I am adding a padding property. So again, I have to open those curly brackets and close the curly brackets separately. Okay. So what I'm doing, I want the space between the column and the data. Okay. What I want is, I want a space. So how do I add that space? I add that space by using a property called as padding. If you want, you add the padding. If you don't want, you remove the padding. Okay. So padding colon 15 pixels. 15 pixels means 15 pixels gap chodega. Utna jagah chodega. Okay. If you want, we can change this. First, let us see how it is getting displayed with 15 pixels and then we will try with other numbers. Okay. Save this and let us see the output. So are you seeing that there is a space between every data and the border of the data, which was not happening previously? Yes or no?
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
Yes.
ma'am.
Now if you see,
Yes,
तो ये
ma'am.
ज़्यादा ही space आ गया है, थोड़ा कम करना है या थोड़ा कम है और बढ़ाना है. So what you will be changing is you will not change the border, neither you will change the data of the table, you will change the padding. Why? Because you have added the space using padding, so you will be changing the size of the padding. So let us change it to 5 and see what is happening. When I do that, see what is happening. So as you keep on reducing the number, that much amount of space between those data and the border is getting reduced. If you try to increase the number, that much amount of space is getting increased. Understood? So this is how you can format your table and increase or decrease the space by adding the concept of padding inside the style of the table. Are you understanding?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So what was the cell padding? Space between the cell content and its border. तो सेल और सेल के आजू बाजू में जो भी बॉर्डर है वो आजू बाजू के बॉर्डर का स्पेस वो इंक्रीज करेगा. Okay. Next, we will see what is left align of the headings. Now we have, if you remember in the start, I have told you that if it is a data, the data is by default left align. मतलब अगर ये आपका टेबल है तो टेबल का लेफ्ट अलाइन जो डेटा है वो लेफ्ट अलाइन ही होगा, ना वो राइट में जाएगा ना वो सेंटर में जाएगा by default. But if what we are going to study now over here is how to give a left align to the headings. Now can anyone tell me what this heading will be? Is it a table? Is it TR? It is TH or TD?
Ma'am, TH.
TH.
Yes.
TH.
Heading means column. So if I
Yes.
want to make a column left align, right align and center, I have to use this alignment. Okay. So by default, the table headings are bold and center. That is what we have learned in the first slide also. अगर आपका column है तो वो column by default bold ही रहता है, वो center में रहता है. But अगर मुझे उसको left और right में लेके जाना है, so I can do that by applying a property called as text align property, again using CSS. So when I use CSS, again I will be using a style tag. I think someone's mic is again on. Mohammed, Manvi.
Ma'am, meet Vagasya Maiki, sir.
Wait. I can now straight away remove these students. Unnecessary disturbance I do not want in the lecture. Okay. Okay, so what are we doing? By default, headings जो है bold और center में ही रहेंगे. But if I want to make it to the left, I can take it to the left. If I want to bring it to the right, I can bring it to the right also. So to do these changes, left, center, right, what do? I use a CSS property called as text align property. So since it is a CSS property, so where I'm going to write is table अलग से बनेगा, उसका style अलग से apply होगा using style tag, correct? So let us see the code of it. So let me first remove the unnecessary part. We don't want this head. Again, we don't want this head. We just want a normal simple table. Okay. So I have created a table with same 3 rows, first name, last name and age. Added 3 rows of data. Data 1 with row 1, data 2 with row 2 and data 3 with row 3. Table is closed, table is inside the body. Now I have opened the style over here and closed the style over here. What are we doing now? We are doing just the left alignment. So if I want, I can remove this unnecessary part up till here. That is applying of borders and applying of padding. Why? Because this is connected to your previous. But if you wanted to keep it as it is, you can keep it as it is. So let us try to understand from the start again so that it becomes a revision for you. So in the first part of a style tag, what I have done is I have applied a border. Okay, border to the table, border to the column and border to the data. The size of that border is of 1 pixel and it is black in color. Okay, and that solid indicates a proper straight line. If you don't write that solid, the border will not be appear. But when I write only this line, what is happening? It is applying 2 borders everywhere.
Ma'am,
Huh.
ma'am, Mohammed Maaz is calling. His mic was not on. He cannot rejoin.
He cannot rejoin.
Yeah, he's not able to rejoin.
Ma'am, that Meet Vagasya was my
And
call.
ma'am Siddhi Bhalekar also.
हम दोनों का माइक तो ऑन था मैंने जब देखा तभी.
बट मैम आवाज वो मीत के माइक से आ रहा था, वो लोग दोनों का मैम ऑन था बट आवाज नहीं.
Yes, ma'am, it was.
मोहम्मद माज क्या है उसका आईडी क्या है? आईडी मांगो उससे. उसका और सिद्धि भालेकर वॉट एवर इट इज. उनको बोलो मुझे आईडी दो, उसके बाद आई विल ऐड. अंटिल देन आई विल कंटिन्यू. Okay, so where were we? So since this line is applying 2 borders, so I don't want such multiple borders, I want only one single line. So to do that, what I'm going to do is I will collapse the border. So I have collapsed it by using this line, border collapse colon collapse. So it has collapsed the border. So applying of border is being closed over here. Now I am going to do padding. What is that padding going to do? It will apply a space between the cell and the borders. How much that padding should be? It should be only of 5 pixels. Padding should be to the header, that is a column, and to the data. So I have opened the padding, closed the padding. Now what are we going to do? जो columns है, वो columns अभी by default center में है. I want to put it to the left. So to put to the left, we are going to use a property called as text align property. So that is to be applied to whom? Only to the header. सिर्फ हमको heading को ही apply करना है, column को ही apply करना है. Therefore I have written only th over here. So th open text align colon the value of the alignment. What is the value of the alignment? Left. Put a semicolon, end that line and end that particular style and end the main style tag. So what will this happen? Right now what you can see in the output is this headers are in the center. Now when I refresh, they will go to the left. Have they gone to the left? If you don't understand, let me increase the padding to 35 the way it was, and then maybe you will understand.
मैम
हाँ.
मैम वो मास्क का आपके मिसअंडरस्टैंडिंग की वजह से आपने उसको किक कर दिया, तो आई थिंक वो ज्वाइन नहीं कर पा रहा है वापस
तो मैंने बोला ना दोनों के ईमेल आईडी लो, आई विल सेंड देम.
मैम चैट बॉक्स में मैंने इसका
मैम
भेजा,
दिया चैट बॉक्स में.
मास्क का अभी तक नहीं भेजा.
मैम भेजा चलेगा।
Ask them to join through the mail. Okay. So now when I execute, what is happening? Those text of the header are shifted to the right, sorry, to the left. Now if I want, I can change this to right. Now when I change this to right, what will happen? My alignment of the headers will go to the right. Now if you see, there will be very minute change. You will not be able to observe it that correctly. But if you have a large amount of data, जब टेबल को बहुत सारे डेटा से और बहुत सारे कॉलम से भरोगे, तभी आपको exactly वो लेफ्ट राइट मूवमेंट समझ में आएगा. Okay? Now if I wanted to put back to the center, either you remove that alignment or you type center. Why I have to remove? Because if I remove, तो वो by default center ही ले लेगा. But if you don't want to remove and if you want to replace it with the word center, you can do that also. Are you understanding?
Ma'am,
Yes, ma'am.
the heading by default appears in the center, na?
Yes. So that is what I told, that if you don't want it in the left or you don't want it in the right, remove this particular part of the line. तो वो by default center में ही लेके जाएगा. But आपको ये line add करके उसको value center देना है तो value center भी दे सकते हो. वो by default भी center लेगा, ये line पढ़ के भी center ही लेगा. So it is not necessary कि आप ये value, ये property पे left और right ही use कर सकते हो. You can use center also, but we generally don't use it because by default it is going to make it in the center.
Okay, ma'am.
And whenever
Ma'am.
again if I write left over here, तो ऐसा नहीं कि वो लेफ्ट है तो वो उसको बोल्ड नहीं करेगा. वो लेफ्ट रहेगा तो भी बोल्ड करेगा, राइट रहेगा तो भी बोल्ड करेगा, सेंटर रहेगा तो भी बोल्ड करेगा. हाँ बोलो.
Ma'am, it is necessary that we have to add only for the heading. Can we add for data?
We will see
The text
that.
align.
हाँ, we will see that.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay.
Okay, ma'am.
चलो ठीक है, अभी देख लेते. लेट अस सी. डेटा है तो हमने THPD को अप्लाई किया है. टेक्स्ट अलाइन कोलन राइट. With this line, we are going to try to apply it to the one particular data या फिर all the data. जिधर TD है उधर सब जगह वो right हो जाएगा. Let us see if this is getting executed or not. So see, you can apply it to the data also.
Okay,
Okay,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
So is this understood? How do you do the alignments of the heading and alignments of the data inside the row?
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. अभी ये दोनों ऐड हुए क्या? जय, anybody who knows जो उनके फ्रेंड है?
Yes, ma'am. दोनों join हो गए.
ठीक है. Okay. Let us see the next topic now. HTML table add border spacing. अभी तक हमने क्या किया है? हमने sorry. What did we do up till now? We have created a table. टेबल को हमने बॉर्डर असाइन किया. बॉर्डर असाइन करने के बाद वो क्या हो गया? बॉर्डर 2-3 अप्लाई हो गए तो हमने उसको कोलैप्स कर दिया. उसके बाद हमने क्या किया? सेल पैडिंग किया. जो भी अनवांटेड स्पेस थी या ज्यादा ही किचमिच हो रहा था उसको हमने अच्छे से स्पेस देके सेपरेट कर दिया. Then what did we see? We see alignments of the heading and we have seen the alignment of the data. Yes or no? So we have seen so many properties of table up till now. Now next what we are going to see is add border spacing. Okay. Border spacing specifies the space between the cells. So now can you able to define me what is the difference between cell padding and what will be the difference between this border spacing? Can anyone tell me before we see the output?
It can be space between two borders.
Okay, if border spacing will be space between the two borders, then what was cell padding doing?
It was the space between the data and the border.
Okay, cell padding was between the data and the border, and you are telling that border spacing will be the space between the border. Okay, so let us see now what is going to happen when we use this property. So if you want to apply this border spacing, we again have to make use of the CSS property. And what is the name of that property? It is border spacing property. तो किधर डालेंगे ये property हम? Style tag के अंदर. So let us see the code of it. Okay. So now I have the HTML tag which is opened, HTML tag which is closed. Body के अंदर हमने एक टेबल बनाया है. टेबल को 3 कॉलम है और टेबल के अंदर 2 डेटा या 2 रो बनाए हैं. Okay. What are we doing in this? What are we doing in this style property? We are going to add a border spacing. Okay. So how do we add that border spacing? Table, why only table? Because we are going to apply the space between the borders of the table. Okay, therefore we are going to write only table. What was the name of the property? The name of the property was border spacing. So क्या है name of the property is border spacing. What you have to specify? Only the number, that much amount of pixels or that much amount of space will be applied to that particular borders. Let us see now what is the changes that are happening to our table. See, these are the changes. You will have one main border, and in between each and every particular column or every particular border you will have a space. तो ये जो फर्स्ट नेम और लास्ट नेम है, फर्स्ट नेम को भी बॉर्डर है, लास्ट नेम को भी बॉर्डर है, बट उन दोनों के बीच में हमने क्या अप्लाई किया है? स्पेस अप्लाई किया है. कौन सा स्पेस? बॉर्डर का स्पेस. तो इन दोनों जो भी बॉर्डर है, फर्स्ट नेम और लास्ट नेम को बॉर्डर, since we have applied a border spacing, so it will be considering each and every border, starting from the main border of the table as well as to the individual borders to each and every row as well as each and every header. Are you understanding what is border spacing and what is cell padding?
Then ma'am, the collapse, border collapse won't work here, na?
Let us try border collapse करके देखते हैं क्या होता है. कुछ हुआ? No changes. It is not considering the border collapse over here. Why? Because मैंने पहले ही space assign कर लिया है, तो अपने आप space borders को ले रहा है, considering all the borders from the table. So even if you try to apply the collapse, it is not going to apply the collapse. Okay? Are you understanding what is happening? तो what is the difference? Cell और इसमें cell padding में table separate नहीं हो रहा है, table एक ही रह रहा है, borders भी एक ही रह रहे हैं, सिर्फ border और data के बीच में gap आ रहा है. But when I'm trying to apply this border spacing, वो क्या कर रहा है? जितने भी borders है table में, सबके बीच में उतना pixels का space it is getting created. Understood? Yes or no?
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now next we are going to see is the cells that spans many columns. We have two properties with respect to tables. First is the cell that will span through columns and next is cells that will span through rows. Okay. तो जो column को हम span लगाएंगे, those will be called as col span, and जब हम rows को लगाएंगे, those will be called as row span. Now let us see what is this cell that spans many columns. So to make a cell span more than one column, use a col span attribute. अगर मुझे एक से ज्यादा कॉलम बनाने हैं, I will use col span. एक से ज्यादा rows बनाने हैं, I will make use of row span. Now you might ask me कि तो फिर हम THTD use क्यों करते हैं? तो TH is what you are giving the name to the column and you are making the column same. मतलब एक कॉलम को एक नाम दिया, वो फिक्स हो गया वो कॉलम. एक रो को एक डेटा दिया, वो डेटा फिक्स हो गया. But what is going to happen when I use col span and row span? Let us see that. First we will see what is col span. तो col span क्या कर रहा है? एक से ज्यादा अगर कॉलम्स है तो मुझे col span यूज करना है. Now let me take this example and let us understand what is that example trying to tell us. I have, let me remove this style, unnecessary, we don't want the style. So I have this particular block of code. There I have HTML open, HTML closed, body open, body closed. Okay? ये स्टाइल भी हटा दो. आई हैव क्रिएटेड अ टेबल ओवर हियर विद अ टेबल टैग क्लोज. टेबल के अंदर क्या है? टीआर एक रो है जिसके अंदर ये व्हाट इज दिस पहला कॉलम. टीएच है ना, तो टीएच मतलब कॉलम, करेक्ट? यस और नो?
Yes, ma'am.
हाँ.
Yes, ma'am.
तो कॉलम का पहला नाम क्या है? नेम. ठीक है. फिर इफ यू सी दूसरा कोई कॉलम है क्या? हाँ है. वाई? बिकॉज टीएच है मतलब है. सो टीएच कॉल स्पैन इज इक्वल टू 2. व्हाट इज द नेम ऑफ दैट टेबल column? It is telephone. Close that. So when I'm not using this call span, एक ही कॉलम बन रहा है नेम. When I use this call span, what am I telling कि ये जो टेलीफोन है ना, टेलीफोन के अंदर मैं 2 एंट्रीज बना सकती हूँ या 2 एंट्रीज डाल सकती हूँ, एक घर का नंबर, एक मोबाइल नंबर. क्यों? Because I have span or I have made that one column divided into more 2 columns. Are you understanding? हेडिंग एक ही है टेलीफोन, बट कितना एंट्रीज हो सकता है? 2 एंट्रीज हो सकता है. आई हैव क्लोज द टी आर टैग. मेरे टेबल का कॉलम्स ऐड हो गया है. ओपन द टेबल रो अगेन. एड द फर्स्ट वैल्यू नेम एज बिल गेट्स. उसकी 2 नंबर्स. क्यों? बिकॉज आई हैव मेंशन द कॉल स्पैन इज इक्वल टू 2. आर यू अंडरस्टैंडिंग?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, yes, ma'am.
When I run this, let us see how your output will be visible. See this. एक ही टेलीफोन को 2 नंबर है. Are you understanding?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
एक ही टेलीफोन को 2 नंबर है. तो अभी मुझे अगर ऐसा कुछ करना है मेरे टेबल के अंदर, so I can do that with respect to columns by using the concept of call span. When I do this to 3, what will happen? I can put how many entries over here? I can put 3 entries. 3 फोन नंबर डाल सकती हूँ. 3 फोन नंबर डाल सकती हूँ. See, understood? Are you getting this?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
So this is what is your call span. एक ही कॉलम को उसने 3 सब कॉलम्स में डिवाइड किया है. Okay. Now tell me what changes should I do if I want to add 2 email IDs. कॉलम का नाम email ID होना चाहिए और मुझे हर एक एंट्री को 2 email ID चाहिए. And this answer will be given to me by Harsh Tank. Are you there? Harsh? Harsh, if you're not there means I'm supposed to assume that you have just kept it on and you have gone somewhere. Martin.
Yes, ma'am.
My question.
Ma'am, can you repeat?
I am repeating. My question is, मुझे एक और कॉलम चाहिए जिसका नाम ईमेल आईडी हो और वो कॉलम के अंदर मुझे हर एक एंट्री 2 बार चाहिए. How am I supposed to do that?
Ma'am, TD tag plus email ID, then
किधर लिखूं? किधर आप मुझे
close.
बताओ. ये कोड में मैं कौन से लाइन पे किधर लिखूं? If you want, I will give the line numbers.
मैम TD tag closer है उसके उधर,
एक मिनट रुको
उसके
रुको.
ऊपर.
एक मिनट. हाँ बताओ लाइन नंबर.
लाइन नंबर मैम 13 के बाद
13 के बाद क्या लिखूं?
वो 14, फिर TD tag,
हो जाने दो. टीडी.
फिर email ID इसका,
अच्छा ईमेल आईडी लिखूं. ठीक है मेरा ही लिखूं. @somaiya.edu. अभी
फिर TD tag close.
टीडी थैंक यू. ओके करूँ रन प्रोग्राम?
हाँ मैम.
यस और नो?
Yes.
Okay, I am going to save this and now I will run this. नहीं ये तो किधर कुछ और ही हो गया. टेलीफोन के अंदर ईमेल आईडी आ गया. टेलीफोन और ईमेल आईडी तो 2 अलग चीज है ना.
हाँ.
फिर यस Yash Surani. Kaushik. Kaushik, please unmute. I am audible, am I correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, suddenly everybody's mic has stopped working. Until now they were correct. Unnecessary, they were being kept on. Growth. Growth.
यस मैम।
हाँ, ये तो गलत आउटपुट आ रहा है, मुझे सही करके बताओ।
हाँ बोलता हूँ।
हाँ बोलो।
7 नंबर के लाइन में ईमेल आईडी डाल दो टेलीफोन की जगह।
टेलीफोन की जगह?
हाँ।
पर मुझे टेलीफोन भी चाहिए।
तो 13 के बाद जो वाला लाइन है ना वो हटा दो।
हाँ, हटा दिया।
और उसके बाद TH कॉल स्पैन 2
इधर
TH
13 के बाद
हाँ 13 के बाद
TH
फिर कॉल स्पैन
हाँ
इज इक्वल टू 2
2
फिर ईमेल आईडी फिर TH क्लोज
ओके
फिर TD फिर ईमेल आईडी डालो और फिर TD क्लोज।
मैम अलग कॉलम बन जाएगा ना ये?
मिनट देखते हैं ना। बस रुत और कुछ करूं?
नहीं।
ओके सो लेट अस सी विद दिस व्हाट इज हैपनिंग। ये क्या हो रहा है? टेलीफोन के बाजू में नहीं, ये तो बिल गेट्स का ही डेटा हो गया ना। मुझे बिल गेट्स का डेटा नहीं चाहिए ऐसा। Now see, what was my question? My question was that I need to have one more column. Where I have added those columns, I have added the columns in this particular area, or in this particular code is the code where I have added the columns. So even if you want to add some more columns, see to it that you add or you write inside this particular tag itself. Okay. तो मुझे कौन सा कॉलम ऐड करना है? आई हैव टू ऐड अ ईमेल कॉलम. सो आई विल बी एडिंग हियर ओनली वेयर आई हैव मेंशन्ड द अदर कॉलम्स आल्सो. सो th call span is equal to how much ever you want, name of the column as email, and close that particular name of the column as th. So with this I have added the column. Let us see whether my column is being added or not. So my column is being added. Now what I want to add is I want to add the data over here. So to add the data, where I will go to add the data, I will go to this particular place, that is line number after 30. I will go and I'll add the data. PD whatever is the email ID @gmail.com, and then close that particular PD tag. So when I do this, have I added the name as Bill Gates? Yes. Have I added its telephone numbers? Yes. How many telephone numbers are told? 3 telephone numbers. So just check, have I added 3 telephone numbers? Yes. This is the first telephone number, this is the second telephone number, this is the third telephone number. What is the next data? Next I have to add email address. Have I call spanned? Yes, I have call spanned it to 2. So how many email address? 2 email address. So I have added only one right now. If I want to add one more, again I am going to write it below the first email address itself. After I have written, close it, close that particular table row and close the table. Now when I save it, let us see whether I am getting the output or not. So see, I have one name as Bill Gates, telephone into 3 call span, and email ID into 2 call span. Are you understanding?
Yes,
Yes.
ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
So what is call span going to do? It will have one main heading, but you can have multiple data for that particular column. Understood?
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am,
Yes.
can we have a border in between the two values of telephone or email?
No. You will have only three borders over here. Border कैसी रहेंगी? एक तो आपका नेम का बॉर्डर इधर, टेलीफोन का बॉर्डर इधर, और फिर ईमेल एड्रेस का कॉलम इधर. ओके?
Okay,
अगर
ma'am. But ma'am, it is
अगर
confusing now because there is
हाँ?
only one space in between those values.
अगर करना है, so let us do one thing. इसका जो properties है, let us copy those properties and see what properties we have applied. Let us see first. अभी हमने क्या किया है? स्टाइल टैग अप्लाई किया है. किसको किसको? टेबल को. तो मेन टेबल को तो आपको बॉर्डर लगेगी, हर एक हेडर को भी लगेगी, हर एक डेटा को भी लगेगी. अभी हर एक हेडर को भी लगेगी. हाँ, border is there, border is collapsed, padding is there, left alignment is also there. Now if we have said that border is going to apply to all the header, let us, I have not saved. So if I have said that it is going to apply to all the header, let us see whether it is getting applied to all the header. So it is applying to all the headers. If I do not if I do not write this th over here, so then it will not apply. It will apply only to the table and to the data.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay. Is this call span understood?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Similarly, we can have cell with the rows. So if I have cell with multiple rows, I will make use of row span. So instead of column span, I will be using row span. So let us see when I use row span, what is going to happen. For now, let us again delete this style. So I have HTML open, I have HTML close, body open, body close. Body के अंदर I have created a table. Table के अंदर what do I have? First table header as name, second table header as Bill Gates. Will I apply row span over here? Will I apply row span over here? Row span क्या करता है? Row span is going to make a cell span more than one rows, you make use of row span. ठीक है, तो जैसे कॉलम हो रहा था वैसे अभी रो होगा. But observe the difference in the code. I have opened the row of the table. First column is name. First column is name and the value to that name is Bill Gates. And I have closed that particular row. Open the second row. Open the first header and row spanned it to 2. What has been row spanned? Telephone. So first data over here, close it, open second data over here, close and then close the table. Let us first observe the output and then look into the details. Let me apply the style also so that we will be able to see the output properly. Are you seeing the difference?
Yes, ma'am.
अगेन जैसे अगर खाली कॉल स्पैन पढ़ोगे और ये टेबल देखोगे तो भी आपको ऐसे ही लगेगा कि कॉल स्पैन अप्लाई किया है, बट कॉल स्पैन अप्लाई किया है क्या? नहीं, रो स्पैन अप्लाई किया है. कॉलम ही डिवाइड हो रहा है रो में, बट दिखने में कैसा दिख रहा है? उधर कॉलम 2 दिख रहे थे, यहाँ पे रो 2 दिख रहे हैं. आर यू अंडरस्टैंडिंग? Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
since we have applied it to the column called as telephone, therefore when I go to the code of telephone, I have applied it on the header of telephone, but not column wise, but in the form of row wise. Understood? So when I apply it in a form of row wise, enter the first data, close that row, open the first data and then close that row. Why open and close of row? Because अगर ऐसा open and close row का नहीं किया तो वो क्या आउटपुट दिखाएगा? इसी के नीचे तुरंत दूसरा नंबर दिखा देगा. क्यों? बिकॉज आपने रो क्लोज ही नहीं किया है. तो ये फर्स्ट रो ओपन किया, ये नंबर डाला, वो रो क्लोज किया. सेकेंड रो ओपन किया, ये नंबर डाला, सेकेंड रो क्लोज किया. अंडरस्टैंडिंग?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
So even if I don't teach you row span and if I tell you what is this output, you are going to tell me call span only. But when you observe it properly, column is being divided into rows and then those rows are spanned. Okay? Are you understanding? And therefore, for every particular data, we have opened that particular row, closed the row, again opened a new row, and then closed that particular row. Okay? And we were not doing this in case of our call span. क्यों? Because हमको column के अंदर ही डालना था. Are you understanding? Row के अंदर नहीं चाहिए था. Yes or no?
Yes, ma'am.
Ma'am, please explain again.
See what is happening in row span. When I see the output, this telephone is divided or this telephone column is divided into two rows. एक row में क्या data है 854, दूसरे में data है 855. So when I want to do this type of a table or if I want to prepare this type of table, I will be using row span. क्यों? क्योंकि हम इधर row को divide कर रहे हैं. ठीक है, डेटा जो है वो दो रो में डिवाइड हो रहा है. तो वो कैसे डिवाइड हो रहा है? आई हैव क्रिएटेड अ टेबल. फर्स्ट को तो हाथ लगाने की कुछ जरूरत ही नहीं. क्यों? बिकॉज फर्स्ट तो एज इट इज है, नेम और नेम के सामने बिल गेट्स. ठीक है, तो फर्स्ट टेबल का हेडर नेम आएगा, उसका डेटा आएगा बिल गेट्स और वो टेबल का रो उधर का उधर क्लोज हो जाएगा. तो मैंने इसको ओपन किया टेबल के रो को, फर्स्ट कॉलम का नाम दे दिया नेम, उसका डेटा डाल दिया बिल गेट्स और वो रो को क्लोज कर दिया. अभी व्हाट आई वांट टू डू इज आई वांट टू प्ले विद दिस सेकंड रो. ठीक है, सेकंड रो में क्या होना चाहिए? एक तो कॉलम का नाम होना चाहिए टेलीफोन, उसको भी और आगे जाके दो रो में डिवाइड करना है. मतलब एक ही रो को और आगे जाके दो रो में डिवाइड करना है. सो इन दैट केस आई एम गोइंग टू यूज रो स्पैन. सो आई विल ओपन द सेकंड रो फर्स्ट. पहले तो टेबल का कॉलम का नाम, कॉलम का नाम क्या होना चाहिए? टेलीफोन. उसको हमको क्या करना है? और दो रो में डिवाइड करना है. तो और आगे दो रो में डिवाइड करने के लिए रो स्पैन इज इक्वल टू 2. कॉलम ऐड हो गया, उसका पहला डेटा भी ऐड कर दो जो उसके सामने चाहिए. क्या डेटा चाहिए? 845 चाहिए. ठीक है, तो फर्स्ट और वो कॉलम वो रो उधर क्लोज कर दो. उसके नीचे जो दूसरा कॉलम होगा उसको हमको क्या लिखना है? अगेन ओपन द रो, ऐड द डेटा एंड क्लोज दैट पर्टिकुलर रो. So I have added in the first row as this particular header with this value and then second row with this particular value. Okay, and then I have closed the table. Is it now understood?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Now last thing with respect to table is table caption. What do you mean by caption? Nothing but the heading. Table को heading देना है, so we can give that heading by using this caption tag. Okay. The note that the caption tag must be inserted immediately after table tag. उसको किधर भी नहीं डाल सकते, हमेशा it should be immediately after the table tag. तो जिधर table tag है अगर caption डालना है तो उसके next line में ही caption डालना है, आप किधर भी नहीं डाल सकते. So let us see how to put that caption. So let me remove this style. I have created a table. What is a caption? Table का heading क्या है? Monthly savings. And then I have created the table. What is that table? Having two columns, month and savings, and having two rows of data, January and February. What is the caption? Table का नाम क्या है? Monthly savings. ठीक है? So when I run this table, अभी कोई table को heading है क्या? नहीं है. But now when I refresh, okay, let me put styles also. Now when I refresh, my table has the headings as monthly savings. Okay, are you understanding this?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
हाँ, अगर इसके आगे आपको और कुछ इसको बोल्ड करना है तो you will use bold, italic करना है so you will use italic, I. So all this can be applied. Are you clear? But if you want to give this heading, so a heading can be applied with this caption itself. And where that caption has to be, it has to be right after the table tag. Is this understood?
Yes,
or
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
मैम एक और बार एक्सप्लेन करो ना.
हाँ,
एक और बार एक्सप्लेन.
if
Yes, ma'am.
you want your table should have a heading. आपका आउटपुट, आपके अगर टेबल को ऐसा हेडिंग चाहिए, मंथली सेविंग ऐसा हेडिंग चाहिए टेबल को, so how are you going to make that heading? Heading can be applied with the help of this caption. ठीक है, this caption. Okay, तो जिधर caption लिखा है, the caption tag is used to apply the heading to your table. Okay, open the caption tag, write the heading of the table, close the caption tag, and then you start making the table. Okay, and where this caption should appear, it cannot appear anywhere, wherever you want on whichever line. It should be there right after the table tag. So when I save this, I will have a table with a heading. ये तो ये आपका table है ये उसका heading. Okay? Are you understanding?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So with this, we complete with the table topic and all the properties of the table. So what we have learned that we can only create a table in HTML, but to apply the style in the table, we have to make use of CSS properties. Okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now from in the next Monday, we will start with forms.
Okay, ma'am.